The Last Shift. Chapter 1. The Midnight Call. Jake hated the midnight shift. The long hours, the eerie silence, the flickering fluorescent lights. It all made the gas station feel like it existed in some kind of liminal space, caught between reality and something else. But rent was due and he needed the money. The Easy gas station sat at the edge of town, surrounded by miles of empty highway. No houses, no businesses, just endless darkness beyond the neon glow of the flickering, open 24 hours sign, a perfect setting for ghost stories. As he parked his car in the lot, he noticed something odd. Tom's car was gone. Tom was the guy working the shift before him. He always waited for Jake to show up, exchanging a few words before leaving. But tonight, no sign of him. Weird. Jake sighed, rubbing the exhaustion from his eyes. Maybe he got tired of waiting. He stepped inside. The ding of the bell above the door greeted him. The store smelled of stale coffee, gasoline, and something else. Something faintly metallic, like rusted iron. Jake walked behind the counter, checking the logbook. Tom hadn't signed out. The last entry was from several hours ago, shortly after midnight. He frowned. That wasn't like Tom. He glanced at the security monitor. The feed was glitchy, lines of static streaking across the screen. And then he saw it. A shadow just beyond the station's glass doors. A figure stood outside, barely visible in the dim glow of the street lamp. Jake squinted. A sharp knock on the glass made him jump. But when he looked again, no one was there. Chapter 2. The Disappearance. Jake checked the back room. Empty. The bathroom door locked from the inside. He knocked. "Tom? You in there?" Silence. Then, a scraping sound. Something dragging against the tile floor inside. Jake hesitated. His pulse quickened. He reached for the key ring under the counter and unlocked the door. The bathroom was empty, except the mirror was smeared with something dark. Words written in what looked like dried blood. "Help me!" Jake stumbled back, heart hammering. The room smelled of iron, the sink dripping red-tinged water. What the hell was going on? A loud thud came from the storage room. Jake spun around. The back door rattled as if someone or something was trying to force their way inside. He grabbed the baseball bat from under the counter, his breath coming in sharp gasps. Slowly he stepped toward the door. He pressed his ear against it. Silence. Then, a whisper. "Not alone." Jake yanked the door open. Nothing. Just rows of stacked boxes. Then he saw it. A videotape sitting on the floor in the middle of the room. A VHS tape. Old, dusty. The label was smeared, but he could make out the words, "Watch me." Chapter 3. The tape. There was an ancient TV and VCR combo in the corner, covered in dust and forgotten in storage. Hands shaking, Jake slid the tape into the player and pressed play. Static filled the screen. Then footage appeared. This gas station. But the timestamp? 2:47 a.m. Tonight, the video showed himself sitting behind the counter. Jake's stomach twisted. Then, movement. A figure crept into the frame. The hooded man. Jake watched as the shadow moved closer behind his past self. The man's face was hidden, but his grin, too wide, unnatural. On the screen, Jake's past self seemed to freeze, sensing something behind him. Then, a hand shot out and grabbed his head. Jake flinched. His past self's head snapped back violently, and he was dragged off screen. Jake stumbled backward, his breath coming in gasps. The tape kept playing. The screen turned to static, but a voice crackled through the speakers. Slow, distorted. "Look, behind you." Jake's body locked up. Cold air brushed the back of his neck. He didn't want to turn around, but he had to. Chapter 4. The Vanishing. The lights flickered. Jake turned. The hooded man stood inches away from him. His face. Not a face, just darkness. A void where features should be. Jake tried to scream, but the sound died in his throat. The last thing he saw was jagged, needle-like teeth splitting the darkness. Then, everything went black. The morning shift worker arrived at sunrise. The front door was locked. Jake's car was still in the lot. His jacket was neatly folded behind the counter. But Jake was gone. The security footage, blank, just static, forever. Chapter 5. The New Hire. A week later, the gas station put up a help wanted sign. A new guy showed up for the midnight shift. His name was Ethan. As he parked his car, he noticed something odd. The front door was slightly ajar. Inside, the ding of the bell above the door greeted him. The security monitors buzzed softly, displaying different angles of the store. Aisle 1 empty. Aisle 2 empty. Aisle 3. Ethan squinted. A figure stood at the end of aisle 3, and he swore. It looked just like Jake. Chapter 6. The loop begins. Ethan couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that the gas station was watching him. At first, it was little things. The security monitor would flicker, objects would be slightly out of place, and whispers would brush against his ears when he was alone. Then he started seeing him. Jake, or something that looked like Jake. As Ethan's paranoia grew, he started digging into the history of Easy Gas. What he found made his blood run cold. Reports of multiple disappearances over the years. Employees vanishing without a trace. The station had changed ownership several times, but one thing remained the same. The midnight shift workers never lasted long. Then he found something even worse. An old newspaper article from decades ago. A fire, a horrific accident, and a man in a hood caught in a grainy photograph standing just outside the burning building. The same figure he'd seen on the security monitor. Ethan realized one terrible truth. He was next.